You know, whatever you thought of President Obama's inaugural, it was pretty obvious that he had a checklist of issues that he wanted to mention. Entitlement programs, climate change, foreign policy, gay rights. And he did briefly mention education.
No single person can train all the math and science teachers we'll need to equip our children for the future. We must harness new ideas and technology to remake our government, revamp our tax code, reform our schools, and empower our citizens with the skills they need to work harder, learn more, reach higher.
Okay, he didn't actually say the word education, but he did talk about schools and he did mention the word reform. Have you ever noticed this guy is not happy about anything? He wants to change everything. And a little bite sometimes would be just as satisfying. But if you believe the data that the federal education department is putting out, you may think there's no need to improve our schools. That's how good that data is, if only it reflected the reality. The education department is practically giddy over some new stats that show the public high school graduation rate is 78.2%. 78.2%. By the way, that's a 35-year, we'll call it not a high, but a best. The best in 35 years. This report, I mean, think about that. That just leaves 21.8 folks not getting it done. That's a fifth of the folks, a fifth of our future that's not making it through. This education department report also notes the national drop rate. Now think about this one. The national dropout rate, according to the Department of Education, is 3% overall. That's down from 4% last year. I mean, are you kidding me? What school did they go to? If only 78.2% aren't getting it done, how does that end up at 3%? New math? Federal math? Oh, yeah. Political math. It's a joke, and it's not a very funny one, brought to you by the Department of Education. A report by a nonprofit group last year, by the way, told quite a different story, pointing out that dropouts continue to be a significant national crisis and that there are at least 1,550 so-called 1,550 high schools in this country. They're called dropout factories. Dropout factories, where 60% of students, 60% of students don't graduate on time. Good Lord Almighty. Why isn't there a national task force, a federal task force, a local task force, a state task force? I mean, a posse of citizens rolling into each one of those schools and say, the nonsense ends now. We're going to fix it. Because it's been going on for years. And when it comes to high school graduation rates, 3%, my foot. American students are lagging farther behind their international peers. Let's tell you how excited you should be about 78.2%. According to a 2012 ranking of high school graduations by the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, the United States now ranks, get through all of this stuff, we now rank 22nd, okay? 22nd out of 27 developed countries. I just want to give a big shout out to the NEA, the Federation of Teachers. I mean, good Lord Almighty. What are we putting up with and why? And our troubles don't end with high school. This country now ranks 14th in the world when it comes to the percentage of 25 and 34-year-olds, 25 through 34, who have a college degree or higher education. Figures like this just insist on this question. Where is Education Secretary Arne Duncan? Now, don't misunderstand. I'm not implying that he is in any way the solution or even a reasonable part of the solution. It is obvious we have to take power away from the Federal Department of Education, the teachers' unions, restore control to our local school district, and insist on the involvement of parents and the responsibility of our students. And we've got to do it before it's too late. Not just for the sake of our children, not just for the sake of the next generation, but for the sake of this country.